Okay, so today we're still going to be working on domain and range, except now it is going to be for what's called a continuous function. And a continuous function, it basically is a graph, more likely a graph or an equation. But today we're going to focus on graphs, but it has a solid line. So you'll notice that that's different from how we looked at things a couple days ago, where it was just individual points and we listed out each point. However, now since it's a solid line, there is an infinite amount of numbers that fall on this line. We could say it's the whole number -2. It could be -1.99999 repeating for another 20 of those nines. It could go on forever. So it's essentially impossible to list out every single X value or Y value for a solid line. So instead, what we do is we write it as an inequality. And to help us out on each of the domain and range sections here, I have already weird. Already put in the less than or equal to sign, which is going to be the most frequently used one. In some cases, it will just be less than, and I'll show you guys that situation and when that occurs. But what we're going to do is still work on finding the domain. I'm going to zoom in on our graph. And we start first, we know domain is our x axis, our x values. So we're going to be focusing on this horizontal axis. And I told you guys last week to make sure that you are in the habit of reading your graph from left to right, because that is very important. And that is exactly what we're going to do today. So we're going to start from the left side of our graph and move until you either see a point, or if the graph doesn't have any actual points on it like this one does, it'll have the line. So you just go until you first see either the point or the line starts. So for this one, our first X value we come across is -2. And then if we keep moving, we're going to move until we have the very last X value. So we started -2, and if we come all the way here to where the graph ends, that is at -4. So we have to keep those two in mind, -2 and -4. So how we do our inequality then is down here in the domain and range. We are going to, on the left side, write our left number, the smallest one. We're going to put -2. And then on the right side of both of these inequality signs, we put the largest X value, which in this case is 4. Now, we know domain is involving X. So in the middle of our two inequalities, we put an X because it is an X values that we are working with here with our domain. So how you read this is you'll say the domain is all real numbers greater than or equal to -2, because X is greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to 4. So basically, this is split apart into two phrases. So we have first, we're going to put X first, and you see X now, the opening is for that one going towards X. So it's greater than or equal to. I don't have the equal one on here, but just remember that that has an equal to, and then -2. And then it's also X is less than or equal to a +4. So it's two things. So X has to be greater than or equal to -2 or less than and equal to 4.